Chapter 10, Nicoles Secret. If you saw a live face right in front of you, how would you feel? Perhaps you might say, what is that? But what if that face had no head, no body and no hair? Just the face? My God! It looked like a face mask, but at the same time, it was not. Even Rody, who was quite brave, was so frightened he almost screamed. That was because the face mask looked like an actual face being kept in the box. The most important thing was that the face was clearly alive. He, or rather, it, was actually laughing at Rody. Rody almost fainted when it, noticing Rody was frightened, winked and made a funny face, looking at his gaping mouth. Nicole's eyes revealed a trace of mockery as she smiled. Why? Are you scared? Rody exhaled deeply and could not help taking 2 steps back. He exclaimed softly, What is this? My God! Why is it alive? Nicole mockingly replied, scared. Aren't you supposed to be very brave? As she said that, she pinched the 2 sides of the face in the box and then lifted it to show the face to Rody, who almost fainted when he saw that the face grimaced as it was pinched. Rody opened his eyes wide and did not dare to say anything. He stared at the object in Nicole's hands. It seemed somewhat transparent. The color of the skin was not much different from humans, but it was quite shiny. Its eyes, nose and other facial features were very realistic. This is a priceless treasure of the family. Unfortunately, it is not very useful. It was from the first-generation ancestors of the Tulip family, that is, the one that helped found the empire, Duke Rudolph. Nicole carefully held the face in her palms. But what on earth is that? A mask. A magic mask with a life of its own. Nicole replied, Magic? Rody exclaimed loudly. In the empire, magic was popular several hundred years ago. Both magic and sorcery were popular techniques. However, 200 years ago a great magician appeared. The great sage Dandong. Not only was he a great magician then, but also a great inventor. He improved on and also developed a lot of different magic techniques, to the extent that the upper echelons of the empire also supported Dandong publicity-wise or strategy-wise. Magicians of that time were always ahead. 200 years later, magic techniques in the empire had shown major progress. However, sorcery techniques had declined gradually. You could no longer find many sorcerers in the whole empire. Only in the north of the empire, across the Thunder Straits of Roland continent, was sorcery culture able to progress. This mask is a magical treasure. An ancient artifact, you know. It was made from the skin of the elven race. Elven race's skin? The elven race was already only a name in history. Those strange creatures were extinct thousands of years ago now. Whether it was in the empire or the northern Roland continent, these strange creatures could no longer be seen. Using someone's skin to make something. Can you still call it an artifact? It is too evil. Rody exclaimed, No. Although it was made from a person's skin, it is not a product of evil. Before his death, a famous sorcerer of the elven race, due to his pious beliefs, had cut off his face to make this magical product. The devout believer called this magical object the god's smile. It is said that the elven race's great sorcerer was about 600 years old when he died. His magic powers were already unfathomable. Nicole narrated the history of this object in a delicate voice. Rody did not say anything, but his heart whispered, My God, a 600-year-old's peeled skin. Is that interesting? I for one, do not want to touch this. Nicole saw Rody's expression change. Although he had not said anything, based on his expression, she could guess his thoughts. She lightly said, The elven race is one of the most mystical races since time immemorial. Although the mask was made from skin, when the great sorcerer was dying, his body was close to crystallization. So rather than to say that the mask was made out of his skin, it is more appropriate to say that the mask was made out of magic crystals. Wait a minute, it suddenly dawned on Rody. You. The moment his mouth said you, Nicole gave him a glare. The frightened Rody quickly changed his words. Master, why did you show this to me? If it is truly precious, what has it got to do with me? Nicole smiled in Rody's eyes. It was like the smile of a wolf looking at a chicken. God's smile is an artifact. There are many uses for this artifact. However, after the sorcerer's death, A lot of its mystical uses were not handed down, but just knowing the two known uses of the mask is already fantastic. The first is that the person who wears this mask can change his face into anything. Like a chameleon, he can change it to a person he had previously seen or anything that he imagines. That is quite interesting. Rody was curious. Nicole quietly smiled. However, that is just one of the uses of this mask. The other is the one I am more interested in. The second use is that a sorcerer can give this mask a specific face. After that, the mask can be worn on a person to show that specified face. Also, Nicole's voice gradually turned into a mocking tone. Only the sorcerer can remove the mask. If the sorcerer does not remove the mask, that person will be wearing the mask for life. No matter what the wearer does, it will not come off. Rody heard Nicole's words and subconsciously took a few steps back. You want me to wear this thing? Nicole smiled and her eyes flashed, moving closer step by step. Her hands took the god's smile purposefully. That day when you attacked me, your companions said that I am a magician. I said he was wrong. I am not a magician today. Let me tell you, I am a sorceress. Chapter 11. Why did it turn out like this? Rody suppressed his surprised feeling. He was not surprised that Nicole was a magician or a sorcerer. For him, there was no difference if Nicole was a magician or a sorcerer, but now that Nicole was holding that thing known as God's smile, the situation was entirely different. That was because only sorcerers could use this magical artifact. Magicians could not use it. Rody suddenly had a thought and gulped. You want me to wear this mask? Nicole smiled and slowly approached Rody. Rody abruptly shouted out, no. I don't want to wear it. I don't want to wear the face of a several hundred years old man. He stepped back and waved frantically. Nicole raised her head. You don't want to? This is a magical artifact, you know? A miracle of sorcery. Don't you want to change your face? Do you want to remain as a little guy for the rest of your life? Remain as a junior swordsman and a poor guy struggling to survive in lower society? Do you want to live your life with that black and white face forever? Nicole's last words stirred Rody's thoughts a little, but he immediately shook his head. I am not a fool. You wanting me to wear this must be because you have some sort of devious intention in mind. Nicole snorted in disapproval before coldly saying, you no longer have a choice. Do not forget. I am your master. You will do whatever I command. No. Rody said resolutely. He had lost all interest in beauty and temptation. His instincts told him to escape. Rody moved quickly, not bothering to take the stairs. He ran to the railings on the second floor and tried to jump across it. Nicole responded faster than him. She coldly grunted, stared at Rody in contempt, and shouted, stop. She lifted her hands and Rody's body suddenly stopped as if he was a puppet that had lost its strings. His body froze and fell from the second floor. His head hit the ground and he fainted before he could make a sound. Nicole calmly walked down the stairs and arrived beside Rody. She sighed in relief when she saw that Rody had only fainted and did not have any injuries. After that, she gently said, don't blame me for this. Who asked you to suddenly appear that night and knock me out? As a result, that bastard ran away. Since you are the one who started this mess, I can only trouble you for. Do you know how many people would want to be a part of the tulip family and yet do not have that chance? The young girl slowly leaned down and turned over Rody's face. She took a deep breath. Her hands were holding the god's smile that was glowing with a strange light. She slowly covered Rody's face with the mask. Nicole then sat with her legs crossed. She folded her arms and closed her eyes. The air around her started to stir. Nicole suddenly opened her eyes. Her lips moved lightly as she sang the incantation. Bang! The god's smile on Rody's face started to glow brighter until it became a dazzling golden light. Nicole's expression turned serious and she continued to chant the incantation. The brilliant light became even more magnificent before it gradually began to dim and eventually disappeared. Nicole was out of breath. Her forehead was sweating and her face was pale. It seemed that the artifact called God's smile was not so easy to use. Nicole quickly looked at Rody without giving herself time to rest. One glance was enough to tell Rody's black birthmark was now completely gone, but it was quiet outside the old, dilapidated building. The sunlight was blocked by the lush trees. This tranquil setting was suddenly shattered by a loud scream. Ugh! It was a scream that came from inside the building. It was a scream of anger, disappointment, frustration and other sorts of emotional anguish. Why? Why did it turn out like this? Rody did not know how long he had slept. He felt like he had been walking a huge distance in darkness. Everything around him was empty. There was no sense of direction nor light. Rody even suspected that he was dead. However, he was still able to think and was conscious. It was strange. What did that girl do to me? Where in hell is this place? Anyone there? Rody tried to shout but found that he was unable to. It was exactly like how people in dreams would feel sometimes. They just wanted to cry out desperately but may find that they did not have a voice. The only thing he could do was move his legs to aimlessly walk forward. Am I really dead? Does this happen to dead people? The Academy's theology teacher said that good people go to heaven and bad people go to hell. Is this heaven or hell? Sheet, don't tell me dead people can only wander around aimlessly. God, what do I do if I get hungry? How long do I need to walk? Everything was pitch black and it was no different from having his eyes closed. Either way, he still could not see anything. If only there was some light. I wish I have a candle. Rody could not help but think. As soon as the thought flashed through his mind, a light suddenly appeared. A large candlestick with the lighted candle appeared nearby. Unfortunately, the flame was too small and could only illuminate the small area around it. Rody looked around the candle but found nothing. It was just open space. He looked below the candle and was startled. There was no ground. Everything, himself included, was standing on empty space as if it was normal. What's going on? Rody thought to himself, it will be great if there is more light. As if on cue, the candlestick immediately transformed into a row of candles, brightly lighting up the place. However, it was of no use. Although the flames were stronger and lit up a larger space, there was nothing around it. It was still just empty space. Rody was stunned. From the day before till then, he had encountered too many strange things for a young man like him. These encounters had already exceeded his mental capacity. Although he was a brave man, in an environment where there was absolutely nothing, he could not be certain as to whether he was dead or alive. This feeling almost made him crazy. Ugh. Rody cried in insanity, but even his voice failed. Cut through this damn darkness. A sword magically appeared in Rody's hands. Rody gradually started to go berserk. His hands held the hilt. His body trembled with all of his might. Rody suddenly cleaved. A sound rang out from the void. The sound gradually came closer and louder until it seemed to be next to Rody. The void in front suddenly cracked open. Rody's sword had actually managed to cleave through the void. The crack seemed to give out a dazzling light as Rody screamed and fainted.